Hollywood lied to you. They told you that becoming an exorcist means you get to wear a dramatic trench coat, stand under a glowing street lamp, and yell Latin at a teenager whose head is spinning around like a broken Roomba. In reality, if you are a real-life Catholic exorcist, your day doesn't start with holy water. It starts with an Excel spreadsheet and a very long, deeply exhausting conversation with a secular psychiatrist named Gary. Welcome to the glamourless, highly bureaucratic world of modern spiritual warfare, where the ultimate enemy of darkness isn't a demon. It is a thoroughly filled out insurance claim form. If you think you are possessed by an ancient entity from the pits of hell, you do not get an immediate dramatic showdown with a priest. You get an intake form. Because the single most important rule of being a real exorcist is that you must be the biggest skeptic in the room. You are not looking for demons. You are actively trying to prove that the demon does not exist. When someone comes to your office claiming that their kitchen cabinets are opening by themselves and that they are growling in their sleep, you don't reach for the crucifix. You ask if they have been tested for severe sleep apnea, or if they just have a very aggressive raccoon living in their drywall. Statistically, about 99% of the people who walk through your door do not need a priest. They need a higher dose of Adderall, a solid therapist, or a better relationship with their mother. And it is your job to figure that out before things get weird. Which means your primary skill set isn't shouting ancient incantations. It is sitting in a plain office, drinking lukewarm coffee, and doing mental health triage. The Vatican actually updated its official manual on this back in 1999. So it was the first major update since the 17th century, mostly because the Pope realized that science had invented a few useful things since then. Like neurology. The manual explicitly states that a priest cannot perform a solemn exorcism until every single medical, psychological, and psychiatric explanation has been completely exhausted. So if you want to fight the devil, you have to play phone tag with a medical board first. Imagine an evil entity trying to claim a human soul, only to find out it is stuck in the waiting room because the host's priest has a literal multi-page checklist signed by Pope John Paul II. The devil has to wait for the blood panels to come back negative. But wait, it gets dumber. Let's say the medical panels do come back negative. When the psychiatrist looks at you and shrugs and says they have no idea why this person is currently tracking the movements of unlisted satellites with their eyes. Now you have to look for the official signs of the real deal. The church has a very specific rubric for this, and it does not include floating off the bed. The floating is dramatic, but it doesn't prove anything, except a blatant disregard for gravity. No, the first sign you are looking for is called xenoglossy. This is when a person who barely passed high school Spanish suddenly starts speaking fluent, grammatically flawless ancient Aramaic. And they aren't just reciting lines they heard in a movie. They are actively insulting your outfit in a dialect that hasn't been spoken since the siege of Jerusalem. If you ask them where they learned it, and they just smile and start reciting your own social security number backwards, that is a bad day at the office. The second sign is supernatural strength. We are not talking about a gym bro hitting a personal record on the bench press. We are talking about a 90-pound grandmother tossing a solid oak dining table across the room like it is a frisbee, while her joints make a sound that can only be described as a bag of chips being crushed by a monster truck. The third sign is the revelation of hidden secrets. This is the person looks at you and casually mentions exactly what you said to your brother in a private text message 3 years ago, or exactly how much money you currently owe your landlord. But it is like being roasted by a true crime podcast that knows everything you did in college. When all three of these signs hit at the exact same time, the paperwork ends. And the long, exhausting reality of the ritual begins. If you think the ritual is a fast-paced, action-packed battle of wits, you are going to be deeply disappointed. It is a spiritual marathon. It takes place in a very plain, boring room with no windows, because you do not need the neighbors calling the homeowners association about the noise. You have a few large, physically fit assistants with you, usually men from the local parish who thought they were volunteering to help paint the church basement, only to find themselves holding down a terrifyingly strong teenager. You start reading the prayers, and you quickly realize that your voice is going to give out long before the entity does. The prayers are repetitive. They are long. It is essentially hours of telling a squatter that they don't have a lease and they need to pack their bags. The entity will try everything to make you stop. It will mimic the voices of your dead relatives. It will tell you that you are a failure, that your faith is weak, and that your breath smells like stale garlic bread. It is deeply personal, highly aggressive cyberbullying, but happening live, in your face. And you just have to stand there, sweating through your robes, feeling like a teacher who lost control of a middle school classroom, but can't leave until the bell rings. Sometimes a single session lasts for 6 hours, and nothing happens. The person just stares at you with completely black eyes, waiting for you to trip over a word in Latin. Your knees hurt, your throat is dry, and you are pretty sure you left your oven on at home. The physical toll of this job is immense. You aren't a superhero. You are a middle-aged man who forgot his Gatorade, and is currently playing a high-stakes game of spiritual chicken. But the hardest part of being an exorcist isn't the screaming the insults, or the casual violations of physics. The hardest part is what happens when the room goes completely quiet. Because when the ritual is over, and the person finally opens their eyes and looks at you like a normal human being again, you are left with the massive weight of what just happened. You have to look at a world that thinks everything can be explained by an algorithm or a lifestyle podcast, and realize that there are still things hiding in the dark that do not care about science. You have to go home, feed your cat, microwave a frozen dinner, and try to forget the sound of a voice that didn't come from human vocal cords. It is a lonely existence. You can't exactly talk about your day at the local diner. Hey Mike, how was work? Oh, the usual. Fought an ancient Babylonian entity in a basement. How's the soup? You become a keeper of secrets in a world that wants everything shared on social media. And speaking of social media, the job has changed completely in the digital age. There has been a massive global spike in requests for exorcisms over the last few years. The Vatican is actually rushing to train more priests because the demand is through the roof. Turns out, spending 12 hours a day doom scrolling on the internet while consuming true crime, content, and isolation has made a lot of people feel like their souls are being eaten alive. Sometimes the symptoms of modern life look exactly like a possession: anxiety, restlessness, avoiding human contact, and speaking in a strange, unreadable dialect. So, basically, your average Tuesday on the internet. But the line between a spiritual crisis and a technological breakdown is getting thinner every single day, and the modern exorcist has to navigate both. So, what about you? Are you the type of person who thinks a weird noise in your house is just the pipe settling? Or are you currently checking your Spanish dictionary to make sure your cat isn't plotting your demise in an ancient language? Let me know down there. Just remember to check your drywall for raccoons before you call the parish office. Because the schedule is pretty full, and Gary the psychiatrist needs his weekends off. So